The manila envelope sat on my desk like a loaded weapon. Nothing special about it, standard office issue, the kind you'd use for safety reports or equipment requisitions. But what was inside those 4 printed pages would blow apart everything Midwest Industrial Solutions had been telling its workers for the past decade. My name is Garrett Sullivan. I'm 47 years old, and until 72 hours ago, I thought I'd finally found a company that valued experience over politics. A place where my 12 years in the Marine Corps, followed by 24 years grinding through heavy machinery manufacturing, might actually mean something. I was dead wrong. Let me tell you how this whole thing started. Because it wasn't some grand plan. It was pure accident that turned into the biggest corporate shitstorm Ohio had seen in years. 3 weeks earlier, I'd walked into Midwest Industrial's facility in Columbus, ready to prove I deserved the position they'd offered me, senior plant manager. The recruiter made it sound like the perfect fit. Marine discipline meets 2 decades of bulldozer assembly and hydraulic system diagnostics. Hell, I could troubleshoot a transmission leak blindfolded and rebuild a hydraulic pump in my sleep. The company manufactured heavy equipment for construction and mining. About 450 employees, steady contracts with Caterpillar and John Deere, solid reputation across the Midwest. The salary offer was $74,000 annually, which wasn't spectacular, but fair for Ohio manufacturing. More importantly, it was 20 minutes from my ex-wife's place, which meant I could still help with my 3 teenage kids. Danny, my oldest, was looking at colleges, and those tuition bills weren't going to pay themselves. Sarah was 16 and needed her dad around for all the high school drama, and Tommy, 14, was just starting to get into trouble, the kind where a father's presence matters. Day 1 felt like every other first day I'd had in manufacturing. Badge photo, system access, safety orientation, routine stuff after 2 decades in the business. My supervisor, Lance Rodriguez, seemed solid. 25 years on the floor himself, worked his way up from assembly line to plant oversight. He had that weathered look of someone who'd actually turned wrenches instead of just reading about it in business school. "You'll be working with some of our newer management team," Lance said as we passed a cluster of offices overlooking the main production floor. "Fresh talent we've been bringing in over the last quarter." Fresh talent. I'd heard that phrase before, usually right before some college kid tried to explain manufacturing to me using PowerPoint slides. This fresh talent turned out to be exactly what I expected: recent college grads hired into positions that normally required 5 to 7 years of hands-on experience. The standout was Brandon Mitchell, 26 years old. Expensive clothes that probably cost more than most guys here made in a week, confident handshake. The kind of easy smile that comes from never having doors slammed in your face. "Brandon, meet Garrett Sullivan," Lance said. "He'll be handling production oversight and safety protocols." Brandon joined us 6 weeks ago as operations supervisor. Operations supervisor, same level as positions I'd worked 15 years to reach. I felt my thumb automatically work the clasp on my watch, old habit from the Corps when something didn't compute right. "Where were you working before Midwest?" I asked, keeping it friendly. "This is actually my first real job," Brandon said, that smile never wavering. "Got my MBA from Ohio State last spring, did some consulting work over the summer, started here in January. First real job, operations supervisor." Making the same level as someone with nearly a quarter-century of experience. "Well, welcome to the real world," I said. The first week passed like they always do, learning systems, understanding workflows, figuring out who actually ran things versus who had the fancy titles. But what struck me was how often I found myself explaining basic manufacturing concepts to Brandon. Not company-specific procedures, but fundamental stuff he should have learned in any decent engineering program. "Hey Garrett, quick question," became his daily greeting, usually followed by something like, "I'm trying to understand this efficiency variance report," or "Can you look at this production schedule?" My numbers don't seem right. By Friday, I'd walked him through lean manufacturing principles, explained OE calculations that were industry standard, and essentially rebuilt 2 of his reports because his analysis made no mathematical sense. Each time, he'd flash that $1,000,000 smile and say, "You're a lifesaver," like teaching him his job was just part of my natural responsibilities. Week 2 was when I started getting suspicious. Not about Brandon specifically, but about the whole setup. Too many young faces in management positions, too many questions that should have been answered in college, too many expensive clothes on salaries that didn't add up. But it was Tuesday morning of week 3 when everything changed. I'd come in early to work on a safety audit for Caterpillar. They were sending inspectors next month and everything had to be perfect. The plant was quiet, just the overnight cleaning crew finishing up and a few other early birds scattered around. I needed historical safety data going back 3 years for the audit report. Lance had mentioned it would be in the filing cabinet behind his desk. Old school paper files that hadn't been digitized yet. He told me where to find the key. Top drawer of his desk, right side. Labeled Cabinet Master. I found the key exactly where he said it would be. Unlocked the 4-drawer filing cabinet and started digging through manila folders. Production reports, client presentations, safety documentation, OSHA compliance files. Standard stuff I'd seen at every plant I'd ever worked. Then I saw a folder that made me stop cold. Compensation analysis management level, internal use only. In the Marines, they teach you that curiosity killed more than cats, but they also teach you that intelligence wins wars. And something about this folder, sitting in a filing cabinet I had legitimate access to, labeled with words that made my stomach tighten, set off every tactical instinct I'd developed over 12 years of military service. I opened it. Inside were salary sheets for management positions, organized by hire date and department. Names I recognized, faces I'd been learning for 3 weeks, numbers that would change everything. I found my own entry first. Garrett Sullivan, Senior Plant Manager, Manufacturing Operations. Hired January 15, 2024. 24 years experience, annual base $74,000. Exactly what they'd offered me. Right in line with my expectations. Then I flipped the page. Brandon Mitchell, Operations Supervisor, Manufacturing Operations. Hired January 8, 2024. 0 years experience. Annual base $92,000. The number sat there like a punch to the gut. $92,000, 24% more than me. 0 years of experience. Same job level. My hands went completely still on the folder. I read Brandon's entry 3 times before it sank in $92,000. Same job level as me. 0 relevant experience. The math was simple and brutal. He was making 24% more than someone with 24 years in the industry. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the notation at the bottom of his personnel sheet. Executive referral, priority hire. Employee referred by CEO Raymond Mitchell. Raymond Mitchell. Brandon Mitchell. The pieces clicked together like a magazine sliding into an M16. I flipped through more pages, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my system. The pattern became clear fast, and it was worse than I'd imagined. Jordan Foster, 25 years old, junior operations analyst. $78,000, 18 months out of college. Executive referral. Trevor Wilson, 24 years old, associate production supervisor. $82,000, fresh MBA, 0 manufacturing experience. Executive referral. Meanwhile, buried in the back of the folder were the people actually running this place. Big Mike Thompson, lead production manager, 18 years experience. $71,000, Diana Santos, senior quality controller, 16 years experience, certified 6 Sigma black belt. $68,000, Ray Kowalski, maintenance supervisor. 22 years keeping these machines running. $69,000. Every single one of the experienced workers was making less than kids who couldn't tell a hydraulic coupling from a pneumatic fitting. I photocopied everything. Not just my page and Brandon's, but the entire folder. 37 pages of systematic wage theft, dressed up as strategic compensation planning. My military training kicked in, document everything, verify sources, build an airtight case before you engage. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Jennifer Adams's office on the 2nd floor. The copied papers spread across her desk like evidence in a court-martial. I need to discuss a compensation issue, I said, cutting straight through her corporate pleasantries. Jennifer Adams was everything you'd expect from an HR director. Early 50s, professional polish, the kind of practiced smile that could deflect a surface-to-air missile. But when she saw those salary sheets, something flickered across her face. Fear, maybe, or recognition. Garrett, she said slowly, this document contains confidential personnel information that you shouldn't have access to. I accessed a file while conducting legitimate safety audit work. The cabinet was unlocked, the file was misfiled, and now I'm looking at evidence of systematic discrimination. I need you to explain how this compensation structure is anything other than illegal. The word illegal hit her like a slap. She straightened in her chair, and I could practically see the corporate damage control protocols activating in her brain. Compensation decisions at Midwest are based on multiple complex factors, she said. each word precisely measured. Market conditions, role complexity, projected growth trajectory, strategic organizational value. There are nuances that can't be understood by reviewing isolated data points. Isolated data points. I pulled out Brandon's sheet and placed it next to mine. This kid has zero relevant experience and makes 24% more than me. What strategic organizational value justifies that? I'm not at liberty to discuss another employee's compensation details. That would violate confidentiality policies. I leaned forward. In the Marines, we called this the moment when negotiation becomes combat. Then let's talk about mine. Was I hired below market rate so you could pay premium packages to executives' relatives? The silence stretched between us like a tripwire. Jennifer's hands were perfectly still on her desk. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her breathing had changed. She was calculating options, weighing risks. Garrett, I understand this might feel inequitable from your perspective, but Midwest operates in a competitive environment. Sometimes attracting high-potential talent requires premium packages that reflect future value rather than current experience. High-potential talent. I let the words hang in the air. Is that what we're calling nepotism now? Her professional mask finally cracked, the warm corporate facade evaporated, replaced by something cold and dangerous. I think we're done here, she said, standing and walking to her office door. You've been with Midwest for exactly 3 weeks. I suggest you focus on learning your responsibilities rather than concerning yourself with compensation decisions that are well above your level. She opened the door. The dismissal was unmistakable. You have 2 choices, she added quietly. Accept the position you agreed to when you signed your employment contract or resign. Those are your options. I stood slowly, gathering the papers. Understood. But as I walked out of her office, something crystallized in my mind. She was wrong. I had a third option. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, the salary sheets spread out like a battle map. My phone buzzed a text from Danny asking about college application deadlines, another reminder of what was at stake here. Not just my pride, but my kids' futures. I started building a case. Not just anger, not just outrage, but a systematic intelligence report that would be impossible to ignore or explain away. I cross-referenced every name on those sheets with LinkedIn profiles. Company bios, industry salary surveys, professional certifications. The deeper I dug, the more damaging the pattern became. This wasn't just about a few overpaid executives' kids. This was a comprehensive system designed to funnel premium salaries to unqualified relatives while systematically underpaying the people who actually kept the machines running. By 2 a.m., I had compiled 35 pages of evidence. Employee names, titles, salary comparisons, industry benchmark data. Charts showing the wage gap between nepotism hires and merit-based employees. Specific examples where someone with 2 years of experience was making more than a 20-year veteran. But data wasn't enough. In the Marines, we learned that intelligence without action is just trivia. I needed a delivery system. At 4:15 the next morning, I woke up without an alarm. Pure adrenaline and clarity of purpose. I drove to the plant while Columbus was still dark, my heart steady, my hands calm. This was it. The point of no return. The security guard, Mason Parker, barely looked up from his crossword as I badged in. Early start again, Garrett. Big project, I said. I took the elevator to the executive floor. Raymond Mitchell's office was at the end of the hall, behind double doors with his name in brushed aluminum. I'd watched his secretary, Diane Taylor, unlock it during my first week for urgent document deliveries. Emergency key in her desk drawer, clearly labeled. The assistant area was dark. I moved carefully, muscle memory from a dozen night operations guiding me. The drawer slid open silently. The key was exactly where I expected it to be. Raymond's office was everything you'd expect from someone who confused wealth with wisdom. Leather furniture that cost more than most people's annual salary, family photos showcasing the privileged life, a desk so pristine it looked like a museum display. I placed a manila envelope in the center of that desk, plain, unmarked, containing 35 pages of truth that would detonate everything they'd built on lies. Then I locked the door, returned the key, and prepared for war. I didn't go home after placing that envelope. Instead, I went back to my workstation on the main floor, logged into my computer, and opened my email. The real operation was just beginning. My hands were steady as I pulled up Midwest's company directory. All 450 employees from entry-level administrative staff to senior executives. But this wasn't going to be some mass email blast. This required precision, timing, strategy. In the Marines, we called it coordinated deployment. I started with the people who mattered most, the ones actually doing the work. Big Mike Thompson in production, Diana Santos in quality control, Ray Kowalski in maintenance. The backbone of this place, the ones who'd been getting screwed while college kids got rich. Then the middle management layer, shift supervisors, team leads, department heads, people with enough experience to understand exactly what they were seeing, enough influence to spread the word. Finally, the executives. Every single one. Let them see their dirty laundry aired in front of their own employees. The subject line took me 5 minutes to write. Compensation Transparency Report. What Midwest doesn't want you to know. I attached the complete 35-page analysis and wrote the message. Colleagues, you deserve to know what you're worth. You deserve to know what the people working beside you are being paid. Midwest Industrial has built its success on your expertise, your long hours, your dedication. Meanwhile, it has systematically underpaid experienced employees while rewarding family connections over qualifications. Attached is documented evidence of compensation practices that should concern every person in this building. Read it, share it, decide for yourself what it means. Garrett Sullivan, Senior Plant Manager. My finger hovered over the send button. In Iraq, we'd called this the moment of commitment, when you step outside the wire and there's no going back. Once this email left my outbox, everything would change. For me, for every person whose name was on that recipient list, for the entire structure of this company, I thought about my kids. Danny's college application sitting on my kitchen counter. Sarah's driver's license test next month. Tommy's upcoming football season. The steady paycheck that kept their world stable. Then I thought about Big Mike. 18 years of keeping this place running, watching college kids waltz into management positions making more money than he'd ever see. Diana Santos, whose quality control expertise had prevented God knows how many equipment failures, systematically undervalued because she didn't have the right last name. The choice was clear. I clicked send. The email disappeared into the corporate network with a soft chime that seemed to echo in the quiet plant. 450 copies of the truth, heading to 450 different inboxes, carrying 35 pages of evidence that would detonate everything Midwest had built on lies and nepotism. I leaned back in my chair and waited for the storm. It started slowly. At 7:30, the first shift employees began arriving. By 7:45, I could hear voices in the hallways, not the usual morning greetings, but something different. Excited, urgent conversations. People calling out to each other across the production floor. Did you see Garrett's email? Holy shit, look at these numbers. I told you something was wrong with these new hires. By 8 m.m, my inbox was filling with replies. Is this data accurate? Garrett, this explains everything. Everything. I'm forwarding this to my wife right now. How the hell did Brandon get hired at $92,000? We need to do something about this. By 8:15, people were standing in clusters throughout the building, phones out, reading the report, voices rising in disbelief and anger. Someone had printed sections and posted them on every bulletin board. Crowds were gathering around break room tables, pointing at specific salary figures, taking photos with their phones. The energy was electric, dangerous. 20 years of quiet frustration, of watching less qualified people get promoted over them, of accepting that this is just how things work. All of that was crystallizing into something that looked a lot like rage. Look at this shit. Big Mike's voice carried across the production floor. This college kid is making $92,000 while I'm stuck at $71,000 after 18 fucking years. Trevor Wilson, Diana Santos was saying to a group near the quality control station. 24 years old, $82,000, I have more certifications than he has years of life. The plant floor was buzzing like a hornet's nest that had just been kicked. Production had essentially stopped as workers gathered in groups, sharing stories, connecting dots they'd never been able to see before. At 8:42, Raymond Mitchell's black Lexus pulled into the executive parking space outside the main entrance. I watched from my workstation window as he walked toward the building, briefcase in hand, completely oblivious to the revolution happening inside his own company. Less than 10 minutes later, his voice exploded from the executive floor, loud enough to echo down the stairwell. What the hell is going on? Jennifer, get up here right now, Lance. Conference room, immediately. I want to know who authorized this, and I want to know now. The hunt had begun. By 9:15, the chaos had spread beyond our building. People were forwarding the email to personal accounts, sharing it on social media, sending copies to spouses and friends. The production floor had completely shut down as workers clustered around computer screens, making photocopies on every machine in the facility. Ray Kowalski found me at my workstation. 22 years of maintenance work had weathered his face, but his eyes were bright with something I hadn't seen before. Hope, maybe. Or vindication. "Garrett," he said quietly, "I don't know how you got this information, but you just changed everything for a lot of people." "We changed it," I said. "This only works if people stand together." "Oh, we're standing together, all right. You should see the group text messages. People are pissed. Really pissed. Jenny Martinez from accounting is calling her lawyer. Steve Foster is talking about contacting the Department of Labor. This is bigger than just our plant now." That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about Midwest anymore. This was about every manufacturing plant in Ohio, where experience took a backseat to connections. Every family struggling to make ends meet while executives' kids got rich off daddy's company. Every veteran who'd come home from serving their country only to get screwed by the very system they'd fought to protect. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. "This is Amanda Foster from Channel 6 News. We received a copy of your compensation analysis report. Would you be available for an interview this afternoon regarding workplace compensation practices at Midwest Industrial?" The media had found us. This was about to go statewide. At 9:47, my desk phone rang. Internal Extension Executive Assistant, Mr. Sullivan, "You're required to report to Executive Conference Room immediately." "On my way," I said. I stood up, straightened my tie, and walked toward the elevator. The entire plant seemed to pause as I moved through the aisles. Workers stopped what they were doing, nodded respectfully, some even applauded quietly. Big Mike caught my arm as I passed. "Give 'em hell, Garrett." The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like ascending to a court-martial, but I wasn't afraid. I was ready. The conference room door opened to reveal 7 people waiting inside, arranged like a military tribunal ready to pass judgment. Raymond Mitchell sat at the head of the table, late 50s, silver hair, expensive suit, face red with barely controlled fury. His hands gripped the edge of the conference table so tightly his knuckles had gone white. Jennifer Adams sat to his right, clutching a leather portfolio like a shield, her usual professional composure completely shattered. Brandon Mitchell slouched in a chair to one side, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else in the universe. Lance Rodriguez was there too, sitting apart from the others with an expression I couldn't quite read, somewhere between resignation and quiet admiration. 2 men I didn't recognize flanked Raymond in dark suits with leather briefcases, corporate lawyers, obviously brought in for damage control. Diane Taylor sat near the door with a laptop open, presumably to document whatever was about to happen. Nobody invited me to sit down. Raymond didn't waste time on pleasantries. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" "Providing transparency," I said, my military bearing kicking in automatically. Shoulders back, voice steady, eyes forward. "You stole confidential company data and distributed it to our entire workforce," Raymond said, his voice vibrating with controlled rage. "You've created chaos in my building. Production has shut down. Our employees are calling lawyers. I documented factual, verifiable information about compensation practices that your employees have both a legal and ethical right to understand," I replied. "And production shut down because people are finally seeing how badly they've been screwed." One of the lawyers leaned forward. "Mr. Sullivan, you're in clear violation of multiple confidentiality agreements, and I'm in violation of nothing." I cut him off. "I accessed data while conducting legitimate safety audit work. I documented factual compensation information. I shared that information with other employees who deserve to know what their colleagues are being paid." "You broke into my office," Raymond snarled. "I used a key from your assistant's desk to deliver a report during normal business hours, the same way urgent safety documents get delivered when you're not available." The second lawyer started shuffling papers. "Mr. Sullivan, we're prepared to offer you a severance package if you're willing to sign a non-disclosure agreement and issue a retraction. Go to hell," I said simply. Complete silence, the kind of silence that feels like someone sucked all the air out of the room. Raymond's face went from red to purple. "You're fired. Security will escort you out immediately." "Perfect," I replied. "I'll add wrongful termination and retaliation to the formal complaints I'm filing this afternoon with the Department of Labor and EEOC. Should make for an interesting discovery process. That's when Brandon finally spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. "Dad, maybe we should just—" "Shut up," Raymond snapped at his son. "You've done enough damage." The room went quiet again. I could see the calculations happening in Raymond's head, weighing options, measuring risks. Jennifer whispered something urgent in his ear, her face pale as paper. "What do you want?" Raymond finally asked through clenched teeth. "I want you to fix it," I said. "Market rate salary corrections for every experienced employee who's been systematically underpaid, retroactive back pay for the last 3 years, transparent salary bands posted publicly, external audit of all compensation practices, and a written policy prohibiting nepotistic hiring." "That's impossible," one of the lawyers said. "The financial liability alone." "Or," I said, loud enough to cut through the room, "I walk out of here right now, drive straight to Channel 6 News for that interview they requested, file formal complaints with every regulatory agency in Ohio, and let your board of directors explain to your investors why this company pays the CEO's unqualified son 24% more than a Marine veteran with 24 years of experience." Raymond closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had changed. The fight was still there, but it was mixed with cold calculation now. "We'll review compensation structures," he said slowly. "Internally, confidentially. That depends on how comprehensive and how fast your corrections are," I said. "Because in about 4 hours, Channel 6 is running a story about this. Tomorrow, the Columbus Dispatch picks it up. By next week, every manufacturing worker in Ohio will know how Midwest Industrial operates." I stood up and looked directly at Brandon. "For what it's worth, this isn't personal. You didn't set your own salary, but you also didn't earn it. And somewhere along the way, someone should have told you that taking opportunities you haven't qualified for has consequences." Brandon's face was flushed with shame or anger, maybe both. I walked to the door and paused without turning around. "You have 48 hours to start making this right. After that, this goes national." I walked out, letting the door close behind me. As I reached the elevator, I heard Raymond slam his fist into the conference table so hard the sound echoed down the hallway like a gunshot. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind. Channel 6's story went viral within hours. The Columbus Dispatch ran a front-page investigation. Labor lawyers started calling. The Department of Labor opened a formal inquiry. But the real vindication came in text messages from my coworkers, from Big Mike. "Garrett, emergency board meeting yesterday. They approved $2.1 million in salary corrections and back pay. My adjustment alone was $47,000. You changed my family's life." From Diana Santos. New compensation structure posted today. Transparent salary bands, experience requirements, no more executive referrals. Brandon resigned Monday, took a job at his dad's construction company. From Ray Kowalski, Raymond Mitchell stepped down as CEO this morning. Board cited governance failures and accountability issues. Jennifer Adams was asked to resign too. They're bringing in outside management. 3 months later, I got a call from Buckeye Industrial, Midwest's biggest competitor. They'd been following the story. They said, "We're impressed with someone who'd put principle over paycheck. Would I be interested in discussing a senior operations manager position?" The salary was $94,000. 37% more than Midwest had offered. Not because of my last name, but because of my experience. On my first day, the plant manager walked me through the facility and said something I'll never forget. "We've been tracking what happened at Midwest. Takes guts to do what you did. We need more people who won't stay quiet when they see something wrong." That evening, I called my kids to tell them about the new job. Danny whooped when I told him college tuition wouldn't be a problem anymore. Sarah asked if this meant she could get a car for her 17th birthday. Tommy just said, "Dad, you're kind of a badass. Sometimes a system doesn't change because people ask nicely or file quiet complaints. It changes because someone finally refuses to stay silent when they discover the truth." The Marines taught me that sometimes you have to choose between following orders and doing what's right. Midwest told me to accept their broken system or leave. I chose neither. I forced them to face what they'd built, and when they tried to bury the truth, I made sure everyone could see it. That manila envelope contained more than salary sheets. It contained proof that experience matters, that fairness is worth fighting for, and that sometimes the best way to protect people is to refuse to stay quiet when you discover corruption. The system only works when good people are willing to fight for what's right. Corporate systems survive on worker silence. The moment people start talking transparently about compensation, the The whole house of cards collapses because nepotism can't withstand the light of day. In America, we're taught that hard work eventually gets rewarded, but sometimes the only way to get what you've earned is to force the system to show its cards publicly, because fairness isn't given, it's taken.